You know the feeling, right? You're in a kitchen where you can't open the oven and the fridge at the same time, or a public restroom that just feels off. Well, it turns out there's a hidden science to designing these small spaces, and getting them right, it's not just a challenge, it's one of the most complex puzzles in all of architecture.
It's one of the great ironies of design, isn't it? The smallest rooms in a building are almost always the most important ones. I mean, think about it. Kitchens and bathrooms are the real workhorses of any building. They're packed with equipment, they're incredibly expensive per square foot, and, they're absolutely essential to our daily lives. So that's really the big question we're tackling today. What are the hidden rules that make or break these tiny, demanding spaces? How can just a few inches of miscalculation make a whole room feel, well, completely unusable? All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about the unique puzzle that these small spaces actually present to a designer.
See, the thing about a small space like a kitchen or a bathroom is that it's never just an empty box. It's this incredibly dense network of plumbing, appliances, cabinetry, the whole shebang. Every single inch has to be ruthlessly efficient. And on top of all that, you're navigating this complex web of building codes. For a designer, a small mistake here doesn't just make for an awkward room, it can literally derail the entire project.
So how do designers even begin to tackle this? Well, it all starts with mastering the fundamentals, and that means really understanding standard residential plans. Okay, take a look at these kitchen plans. A classic tool in the designer's kit is what's called the work triangle, and you can see it right here. It connects the three key points: the fridge for storage, the sink for cleaning, and the stove for cooking. The whole idea is super simple. Just keep the path between them short and unobstructed. It's a fundamental concept for creating a kitchen that just, well, works.
And for bathrooms, the learning process is actually pretty old school. Seriously, designers will literally copy and trace standard layouts, just like these, over and over again. Why? Because by doing that, they start to internalize the exact dimensions of tubs, toilets, and sinks. But even more importantly, they get a feel for that critical clearance space you need around everything to make a bathroom feel functional instead of just frustrating.
All right, so once you've got the basics of home design down, the game changes completely. We're moving from private homes to public spaces now, and a whole new set of rules comes into play.
I mean, think about it. Your bathroom at home? That can be designed around your personal style, your quirks, but a public restroom has to follow strict legal codes. The focus completely shifts. It's no longer about a single user or family, it's about high traffic and a huge diversity of users. Suddenly, durability and privacy are paramount. But the single biggest game changer? The legal requirement for barrier-free access.
And this really gets to the core idea of modern space planning. Designing for accessibility isn't some niche concern for a small group of people. It's a fundamental principle that, as we'll see, ends up making spaces better for absolutely everyone.
This way of thinking is actually rooted in a scientific field called human factors. It's all about studying human dimensions, sizes, clearances, all the raw data designers need to do their job right. This is what takes design from just being common sense and elevates it to a data-driven process for making spaces that actually work for real people.
And these barrier-free design principles, they have a massive impact on space planning, especially in these 4 key areas. We're talking about everything from how you move through a space, to how toilets and baths are laid out, to even how residential kitchens are planned and furniture is placed.
And when you boil down all the rules and all the dimensions of accessible design, one single factor controls almost everything else: the wheelchair. Understanding how a wheelchair operates, its dimensions, its movement, that is the absolute key to creating a space that's truly barrier-free.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty, the actual numbers. First up, 5 feet. This is the magic dimension. It's the diameter of the circle that a wheelchair needs to make a full 360-degree turn. Once you know this number, you'll start seeing it everywhere. At the end of a hallway, in the middle of a public restroom, you name it. All right, next number, 3 feet or 36 inches. This is the optimal width for a doorway that allows a wheelchair to pass through comfortably. Now, here's what's so interesting. That's actually wider than a lot of standard doors in older homes. It's a perfect example of how our design standards have evolved over time.
And finally, here's a detail you've probably never even thought about: 18 inches.
That's the minimum clearance you need right next to the doorknob on the side of the door that you pull open. It seems like such a tiny thing, but it is absolutely critical. That little bit of space is what allows someone in a wheelchair to pull up alongside the door, reach the handle, and open it without having to back up as it swings out. It's a tiny dimension with a massive impact on how usable a space is.
And all of these details really point to a larger truth, one that's captured perfectly in this quote. See, these aren't just niche rules for a small group of people. These are principles of what we call universal design. Think about it. That wider hallway, it's also way easier for someone moving furniture. That lever-style handle on the door, it's a lifesaver when your hands are full of groceries. It turns out that good design for accessibility is almost always just better design for everyone.
Now, it's really tempting to look at a perfectly laid out floor plan and think, okay, job done. But the truth is, these two-dimensional plans, they're just the beginning.
You have to remember that a floor plan is just a map. It is not the destination. The real goal, the true test of a design, is translating those lines on a page into a real three-dimensional space that just feels right. The flow, the way the light hits, the actual human experience of being in that room. That's what defines success, and it's something you can only ever really get in 3D.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. The next time you walk into any room, a kitchen, a bathroom, any space at all, look around and ask yourself two questions. First, who was this space designed for? And just as importantly, who might have been left out? Because at the end of the day, the hidden rules of small spaces aren't really about inches and feet. Ultimately, they're about empathy,